Hello everybody, welcome to Lab 2 Objective 5, where we're going to be going over with grant option. Now with grant option behaves very similarly as with admin option, but like I mentioned before, this is used for object privileges. So let's go ahead and take a look really quickly at the object privileges that our demo user currently has. So we'll come in here and we see the same basic stuff we saw before. So we're going to be using the Tony user. And on my spare time, I enjoy doing sports statistics. So from Tony, we are going to grant select on players. Now, this is players within the Tony database connection. We're going to give that to Lab, and we're using with grant option. So Lab should be able to pass that along to our demo user. And that makes sense, right? So now we bring this, and we come here to Lab. And again, because this belongs to the Tony database connection, we have to put Tony and then a period before players so that the database understands we're not referring to a table within the lab connection, we're talking about Tony. And because we have the privileges that were given to us, we can pass that along to demo. So we do that. And now from demo, we can actually select, well, first of all, we can select from this, and this should show us that we have some additional privileges, right? We were given from lab the select privilege on the table name of players, and that belongs to Tony, right? And demo is what received that. So now if we come here, we should be able to select all from Tony.players. Oh, I didn't say from, haha. Sometimes you just make mistakes. Okay, and there we go. We can see all sorts of players that play in the NBA. So now, what happens if we revoke those privileges? So let's come to Tony here. So if we revoke the select on players from lab, what happens? Well, as we'd expect from lab, if we tried to do select all from players, whoops, there isn't one because we need to do Tony. Haha, man, the struggle's real. It still says the table doesn't exist. That's the error when you don't have the correct privileges with referring to like object privileges, right? It says it doesn't exist. The object doesn't exist. But what about demo, right? If we took it away from lab and lab gave it to demo, so what happens with demo? Well, we'll see right here. We get the exact same thing. So here's the interesting thing. These results are 100% different than what we saw using with admin option, right? So if you're trying to revoke and cascade those revokes with regards to an object privilege, it works perfectly, right? It keeps track of that. If you take it from lab and lab originally granted that also using with grant option to the demo user, then when you revoke that privilege from lab, it is also revoked from demo because it was an object privilege. But if you're using system privileges through with admin option, it does not cascade. So when it comes to system privileges, we got to be very careful who's getting that privilege and who has the ability to dish those out. Because once they're given out, then you have to go through and figure out who has those privileges, and you have to take them from them individually. Now, that's actually not that hard. There are tables in the database that can show us who has those privileges, but it does make for a little bit more work to do it that way, whereas cascading with object privileges is a lot more convenient. So that's it. This is the most complex part of this lab. Now we'll move on to just a couple more things, and we'll be done. We'll see you in the next objective.